What does it look like when ambition, responsibility, and self expression all need a seat at the table? Nobody tells you that creativity changes as you get older. One day you wake up and the things that once inspired you still do, but differently, or don't anymore. Regardless, if creativity is within you, it's not something that just goes away. No matter how busy life gets, creativity is something that simply grows up with you. Whether you started painting at 12 and stopped, hosted your first radio show when you were 20 and life took a different turn, one thing is for certain. The older we get, the more creativity changes shape. So I ask you, how much longer are you going to wait instead of create? Hi, and welcome back to Talk to Me 30. My name is Nobantubonke, and this space was created with the intention of having honest conversations about navigating life in your 30s. Whether we talk about self-development, exploring your creativity, reaffirming your worth, balancing motherhood, or simply navigating your career, business, or relationships. Most importantly, it's about using your voice to speak on things that matter to you and affect your everyday life. So stay for the realness, the laughs, or conversations we have that inspire you to become the best version of yourself, one conversation at a time. This is Talk to Me 30. Let's talk. Today, we're talking about different ways to nurture and express your creativity as it grows and evolves with you. Firstly, what is creativity? Creativity can be defined, but of course is not limited to the fact that it is the ability to make or bring into existence something new or create something pre-existing. So whether it be a solution to a problem, a new method, or an artistic object, it is meant for you to create something tangible or intangible, a certain outcome, often using imagination, innovation, and originality. So when you think creativity, you think many things, but at the top of my mind, I think design, visual arts, writing, content, media, entertainment, beauty, performance, tech, architecture. The list is endless. But one thing I know is that creativity is not something that is set in stone, nor is it rigid. I view it as something that is flowing, they are constantly moving parts. Now, in today's conversation, I want to touch on the way to nurture and express your creativity as it grows and evolves with you. When I think of creativity, I think of my own personal journey, the birth of a business I created called Beauty by Bantu, which is a beauty business that specializes in hair care, and the embodiment of simply representing beauty in its multiple facets. Before I dive into the why and how of Beauty by Bantu, I want to give you the backstory as to, okay, girl, how did you get into business? Let's start there. Originally, there was a company that I created, started, registered, the whole shebang, called Breakout Apparel SA. This was an athleisure brand where my focus was simply on helping women love their bodies more through clothing, through expression. And I enjoyed that phase of my life because it taught me so much about business, and it still is teaching me so much about business. But the inspiration behind starting Breakout Apparel SA is because I am naturally an athlete. I like to exercise. I like to take care of my body, my mind, my soul. And I thought, why not start something that's a reflection of that, that represents that, that helps women feel confident about themselves, about their bodies, and just embody a holistic approach to health, the mind, the body, and the spirit. So that's how that business came about. I was in my 20s when I started that, and it was exciting times, from looking for local manufacturers, getting seamstress, sourcing material. It was a whole intricate process, which I really did enjoy. And just to fast forward it to now, Break out a pearl is it always comes out of my mouth. And my mom would always ask me, Nobantu, when are you going to go back? That was so beautiful. She actually still wears some of my items right now. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's something I will go back to. I am not certain. I am not sure. But one thing that I do know is that that was merely the stepping stone for me to get into, I would say, the field of business and the field of entrepreneurship. Also, considering that was what I studied when I was in varsity. So I think it was just like a natural inclination for me to go in the direction of entrepreneurship. Hence, the birth of something new being Beauty by Bantu. And that's something that I recently got into and I'm excited about. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because it just touches on the fact that I view myself as a creative and I use different forms, different platforms, do different things to explore that. Whether it's successful, whether it's not successful, I think I'll always go back to the fact that I want to constantly nurture the creative within me and use my creativity to make things, to birth things to life. And now this is the journey of Beauty by Bantu. So that's the main reason why this episode holds so much meaning, because I think once we get into our 30s, we often shy away from our creative side of things. And one thing I want to note as we touch now and go deep into this conversation of nurturing and expressing your creativity is that realizing that your responsibilities change, but don't cancel creativity. And I think it's especially important to note that whether in your career, motherhood, bills, business, or relationships, creativity sometimes fits into different seasons of life. Maybe you're in a season where you say, I have children, I work full time, I look after everyone, I don't have enough time. I just purchased my first home. I'm still studying, trying to finish this degree. I hardly have a social life. I just moved to another city. I got a new work opportunity. I'm adjusting to a new environment. My passions or my creative passions, projects won't sustain my lifestyle. I have too many bills. This economy is driving me up the wall. I work, but I am not satisfied. You know, creativity doesn't always need 8 uninterrupted hours. Sometimes it needs 30 minutes. Sometimes it needs effort instead of perfection. The season you're in changes rhythm, not your ability. So focus on creating a system that works. This way, you are able to utilize your time based on what you need to do. We all have responsibilities. Responsibilities will not change, but that does not mean that it has to cancel out your creativity. So opt for something that works. Focus on creating a system. This way you utilize your time based on what you need to do instead of what you feel like doing. This is just a way for you to nurture and express your creativity. I think the best thing you can do for yourself in order to nurture your creativity is to stop comparing your timelines. It's okay to not be where you thought you would be in life, but what's not okay is dwelling in that for too long. A shift in perspective and mindset can change so much. All you need to do is decide. Decide what are you going to do about it now, in this very moment, in this season. Maybe you thought by now you'd be married, have a kid or two, living in your favorite neighborhood, your career's booming, business is thriving, you're attending family brides, friendships are blossoming, you are in good health, your bank account is nice, fat, and healthy, you're debt-free. And maybe you have checked the list on a couple of things, but you're not feeling fully satisfied. Or maybe things didn't quite plan out that way. Such is life. Call me an optimist if you want, which I am, by the way. Disclaimer, I am. But maybe that's exactly the direction life was meant to take you in. The good and the bad, the hurt and the pain, the joy and the celebration, the growth and the evolving, the learning and the unlearning, to eventually get you to a place of becoming. Things happen in different seasons for different reasons that don't always make sense, but are part of the bigger plan, far beyond our own understanding. Isn't it crazy how we experience loss, but somehow also experience joy? I consider that the ecosystem of life. And the reality also is that some people will discover their purpose at 40, some start businesses at 50, some write books after retirement. Your creativity has its own timeline. So remember to stop comparing your timelines in order to nurture your creativity. And another thing, give yourself permission to be a beginner again. Being new is uncomfortable, but it's where growth happens. The quickest way to kill creativity is expecting yourself to be an expert before you've begun. So start that YouTube channel, learn video editing, start that yoga course, change careers, launch a business, start a podcast. How can you expect different things when you don't try anything different or new? I think people are afraid of others' opinions way too much than they actually should. There's this saying, abantu bazothini. Ndingenaphi? Where do I fit? Where do I enter? Abantu bazothini, what have people done for you? Apart from the ones that really actually show up for you and support you. Abantu bazothini is a syndrome. People don't pay your bills. They don't buy your groceries. They don't take you to the hospital when you're sick. Why should it be your business ukuthi abantu bathini? I think one thing that I will say is that has nothing to do with you. So keep pushing forward. Allow yourself to be a beginner again. Don't let losers tell you what you cannot do, because there will always be people from the outskirts, on the outlines of things that got nothing going on in their own lives but want to tell you what to do with yours. Pardon me? Excuse me? Are you serious? And I mean that with no shade. I think it's just time to get honest and real with yourself and recognize when people have your best interest at heart. Because people are quick to point out the negatives. People are quick to speak on the negatives. So focus on your focus and create. Create consistently, not perfectly. Set aside regular time to create, even if it's only 30 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes a day. Small atomic habits. Whether it's writing, designing, painting, brainstorming, or problem solving, consistency builds creative confidence far more than waiting for inspiration to strike. Another goodie that I always think of to help nurture and express your creativity is getting rid of that mindset of, I'm too old. Who told us there was an expiry date on becoming who we're meant to be? Somewhere along the way, many of us started believing that if we hadn't figured it out by 30, we'd missed our chance. But what if this is exactly where your story is supposed to begin? Who decided that 30 is old? 30 isn't old. 30 is informed. You are creating from experience. Some of the world's biggest businesses, books, podcasts, and brands were built after 30, mind you. Your age isn't a disadvantage. It's your advantage. I think you also need to remember that your age isn't the barrier. Your belief about your age might be. So if your age can remind you of anything, I hope it's this. There's still time to become the person you've been imagining. Just go on and start. You know, when they talk about imposter syndrome, that was something that I had experienced for the longest time until I decided to take my power back. Because who you are and who you're becoming are two different people, and what you believe about yourself is different. And I think one thing that you can do to also help nurture your creativity, or something that tends to be imposed, could be you, could be others, is the fear of being seen. Gets bigger and bigger. Ironically, you know yourself more than ever, but you're also more aware of judgment. What if people from work see this? What if I only get 5 views on my YouTube channel? What if my family laughs? What if it fails publicly? What if? Those fears deserve airtime. What I mean by that is that they deserve to be spoken about openly instead of being brushed aside. Don't dwell on it for too long, but honor it and then keep it moving. In our 30s, the fears become a little bit more complex. For example, what if people laugh at me? At 22, that might have been embarrassing. At 35, it feels different because your colleagues, your family, your children, or people you've known for years are watching, and the stakes might feel higher. What if I fail after telling everyone? You've built a reputation. Maybe you've been known as the accountant, the lawyer, or the responsible one. What if I'm actually not that talented? That's the fear many people carry, but really admit. Sometimes we don't avoid creating because we're lazy. We avoid it because creating might answer a question we're scared to know the answer to. This is the thing about being honest about your fears, because I've been there too, but does it make it true? Can we be honest for a second or more? I don't think most of us fear creating. I think we're scared of being seen trying, because trying means people can watch you succeed or watch you fail. And when you're in your 30s, that vulnerability feels much more bigger than it did 10 years ago. But remember, create because it's something that you want to do. Create because it's a natural language that flows from you. Because at the end of the day, your creation, whatever it is that you're creating, someone is waiting for the very thing you're afraid to share. Don't let your fear of being seen become someone else's reason for never finding what they needed. And I think it's important for you to find different ways to nurture and express your creativity. It's an outlet. It's a form of expression. It's artistry. And one thing that needs to be said is that creativity also needs to be protected. It needs protecting. Create before you scroll. It's easy to get consumed, overwhelmed, because there is so much out there. Protect quiet time. Celebrate progress. Because there are some things that still creativity. Sometimes you consume more than creating because of fear of judgment, constant comparison, waiting for perfection. But maybe creativity doesn't disappear as we get older. Maybe it becomes wiser, more intentional, more authentic, less about being performative and trying to prove something, but more about expressing who you've become. There comes a point in life where creativity stops being effortless. As children, we create because it's fun. We draw, sing, dance, write stories, take photos, imagine businesses. We don't ask whether we're good enough. We simply enjoy creating. Then adulthood happens. Responsibilities grow, careers demand more, families need us, bills have to be paid. Somewhere along the line, or somewhere along the way, creativity becomes the first thing we sacrifice. Not because we stopped loving it, because we convinced ourselves there wasn't enough time for it. The difficult part is that creativity is quiet. It doesn't knock loudly on your door. Sometimes it does. But I think it's important to realize and remember that it doesn't send reminders. It simply waits. And if you ignore it for long enough, you begin believing you've lost it. But maybe you haven't lost your creativity. Maybe you just haven't been protecting it. Think about everything you protect every day. You protect your job by showing up. You protect your relationships by making time for people. You protect your phone with a password. You protect your money by budgeting. But how often do you protect the thing that makes you feel most like yourself? Your creativity deserves the same attention. Protecting your creativity might mean saying no to something that drains you. It might mean spending 30 minutes writing instead of scrolling. It might mean taking yourself on a solo coffee date with your notebook. It might mean allowing yourself to make something that no one else will ever see. Not everything you create has to be shared. Some things exist simply to remind you that you're still creative. I think one of the biggest threats of creativity isn't the lack of talent, it's constant consumption. We're always watching what everyone else is doing. We compare our first draft to someone else's 10th year. We scroll through perfect videos, polished businesses, and beautiful ideas until we start believing ours aren't enough. Eventually, we become better at consuming than creating. And that's dangerous because your creative voice can only develop when you actually use it. And can we also acknowledge something? Sometimes creativity needs protecting from other people's opinions. Not everyone will understand why you're starting a podcast, why you're learning photography, why you're writing, why you're making content, why you're making videos at 35 or 40. Some people only understand success once they can see it. That doesn't mean you should stop before you've had the chance. Creativity isn't asking you to have everything figured out. It's asking you to not abandon it. Even if all you can give it today is 15 minutes, even if nobody sees the result, even if it isn't perfect, keep showing up. Nurturing and expressing your creativity is not the easiest things to do, but I think like every single day, like we wake up, we are in routine. If we just simply create habits, a system that allows you to nurture your creativity, I think that's something that you should do because creativity needs freedom too. Ideas don't usually arrive while staring at a blank screen. They come from living. Go for walks, go outside, read, journal, go to a poetry session, sip and paint, listen, travel, have conversations with strangers. Curiosity is creativity's best friend. You need to be free when you create. Your mind can't be boxed in, it can't be limited, it can't be rigid. It needs space to flow. So I think it's important to make space for curiosity. Give yourself permission to explore without the pressure of being productive or perfect. Read a book, visit a different place, try something new, try a hobby, or learn a new skill. Creativity thrives when it's exposed to new ideas and experiences. Maybe you've stopped being curious. Maybe that's what's blocking or stopping your creativity. And I think once you continue to feed curiosity, you allow for creativity to naturally flow through you. Ask yourself, when was the last time I tried something simply because it looked fun? When was the last time you actually went on a jumping castle? When was the last time you went on slides? When was the last time you went to a park and you started running around and doing things that actually made you feel alive? When was the last time you actually did something that made you feel alive? And not focused on bills, responsibilities, debit orders, but things that actually made you feel alive or that made you feel inspired. When last did you go watch people dance? When last did you go feel the wind through your hair and you felt free and you felt alive? When was the last time you were on a boat ride? When was the last time you actually did something that was fun? When last did you do a handstand? Because it's the little things sometimes that we overlook that can actually help us tap in to our creativity, even to our inner child. We're so rigid. We are so serious. And I would love for us, I think it's important for us to find ways. Every opportunity that you get, make space for curiosity. And that's just another way for you to express your creativity and nurture your creativity. Have you ever noticed how we keep moving the goalposts? I'll start when I have more time. I'll apply when I'm more qualified. I'll launch when it's perfect. Before you know it, another year has passed. And the only thing that has changed was the calendar. And the reason why I'm bringing that up right now, because sometimes what delays progress in our lives is that we stop and we wait until we feel ready. And perfection delays purpose. Your first version is supposed to feel uncomfortable. Mine did. Everyone's did, I believe, I think. But I do know that when you get out of your comfort zone, you tend to see growth. You might not like it at first, but I would always recommend that you go where the growth is at. The people you admire weren't fearless. They were brave. They were courageous. They just went for it. They just started. They just did it. Maybe the goal was never to feel ready. Maybe the goal was to simply become someone who acts despite the uncertainty. Because confidence doesn't usually come first. It follows courage. Think about this. A year from now, you'll either be grateful you started today or wish you had. But either way, time will pass. So I ask you this. What's one creative dream, project, passion that you have been putting off because you stopped and waited to feel ready? Creativity isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something you nurture through curiosity and consistent practice. Now, I need you to do me one favor. If there's anything I want you to take from this conversation, is that I want you to remember that your responsibilities change, but don't cancel creativity. Stop comparing your timelines, because your creativity has its own timeline. Give yourself permission to be a beginner again. Create consistently, but not perfectly. And remove age from anything that you want to do. You're not too old. Just go on and create. The fear of being seen gets bigger and bigger as you age, but don't let that be something that stops you from creating, because there might be someone that is waiting for the very thing you're afraid to share. So don't let fear of being seen become someone else's reason for never finding what they needed. Don't forget to also protect your creation. Create before you scroll. Protect quiet time. Celebrate progress. And remember to also stay curious. Make space for curiosity. Go outside. Be with people who love and support you, and vice versa. Stop waiting to feel ready, because if you're waiting to feel ready, you might just never be. Feeling ready is a decision to get started. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love for you to follow Talk to Me 30 and share this episode with someone who's been questioning whether it's too late to start. If you missed out on episode 1, where the conversation touched on redefining yourself, do check that out too. Before we wrap it up, though, in this conversation today, I want you to make or create something this week. Not because it's perfect, not because it will go viral, not because everyone will clap, but because every time you create, you're telling yourself, my ideas still matter. My voice matters. And that's a powerful thing to believe. So in closing, tell me, what dream have you quietly placed on the shelf because you thought you were too old for it? Are you mourning the version of yourself that you used to create? Or are you finally ready to meet the version that's meant to create now? Maybe creativity didn't leave you. Maybe life just got louder. Responsibilities just got realer. And perhaps this season isn't about finding your creativity again. It's about making enough space to hear it. Keep growing, creating, and keep becoming. Thank you for listening. If today's conversation resonated with you, please follow the podcast, subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who might need to hear it too. We truly appreciate your support, as it helps us keep the conversations going. Until next time, keep moving forward, taking up space, and showing up for the life you're building. And remember, you're not navigating your 30s alone. Bye for now.